The silence of space broke as reality tore open like a giant wound. 500 massive ships appeared from nowhere, their dark hulls blocking out the stars. Each vessel stretched longer than a city, bristling with weapons that could turn planets into dust. Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion's fist watching the small blue planet spinning peacefully ahead. His 4 eyes gleamed with satisfaction as he studied the primitive world through the viewing screen. This would be another easy victory for the Zephyrian Empire. "Report," he commanded, his voice echoing through the vast bridge where hundreds of alien crew members worked at their stations. "Sir, we have arrived at the target system," his second-in-command replied, consulting a glowing display. "The planet shows no signs of advanced technology. No orbital defenses detected. No fleet response. The inhabitants appear to be using primitive chemical rockets and basic nuclear power." Kethvar nodded, his scaled lips curving into what passed for a smile among his species. In his 300 years of service to the Empire, he had conquered 47 worlds. This one looked like it would be the easiest yet. The Empire had been expanding across the galaxy for over 1,000 years, absorbing or destroying every civilization they encountered. Their methods were simple and effective. Arrive with overwhelming force, demand surrender, and glass any planet that refused. The pattern had worked perfectly on every world they had found. "Begin scanning procedures," Kethvar ordered. "I want a full tactical analysis of their defenses." The massive alien warships spread out across space, their sensors reaching toward Earth like invisible fingers. The data that came back only confirmed what they already knew. The humans had basic satellites, simple space stations, and what appeared to be rudimentary weapons. Nothing that could threaten even one Imperial ship, let alone 500. "Admiral," the communications officer called out, "we are detecting multiple radio transmissions from the planet. They seem to know we are here." "Of course they do," Kethvar replied with amusement. "Even primitive species can usually detect ships this size." "What are they saying?" "The transmissions appear to be excited, sir. There is a lot of activity on their communication networks, but no military responses. No attempts to mobilize their forces." Kethvar studied the peaceful blue world again. It looked so fragile hanging there in the darkness with its white clouds and green continents. Soon it would be another charred rock in the Empire's collection, unless the humans were smart enough to surrender. He had read the intelligence reports about this species called Humanity. They were young, barely 200 years into their industrial age. They had only recently developed spaceflight and had never encountered another intelligent species. Their technology was primitive by Imperial standards, and their military forces were divided among dozens of separate nations that regularly fought each other. "Prepare the standard ultimatum transmission," Kethvar commanded. "Let us see if these humans have any wisdom." The communications officer worked at his controls, setting up the broadcast that would reach every radio and television receiver on the planet below. This was always Kethvar's favorite part of a conquest. The moment when a species realized they were no longer alone in the universe, and that they were about to become part of something much larger than themselves. "Transmission ready. Admiral, begin broadcast." The message went out across space carrying the weight of Imperial authority. It was the same message that had been sent to dozens of worlds before Earth, translated into the dominant human languages. "People of Earth," the transmission began, "you are now within the territory of the Zephyrian Empire. Your world has been selected for incorporation into our domain. You have one rotation of your planet to consider your options. You may surrender unconditionally and accept Imperial rule, or you may resist and face complete destruction. Choose wisely." The bridge fell silent as they waited for a response. Usually, primitive species reacted with panic, desperate attempts to negotiate or immediate surrender. Occasionally, they tried to fight with whatever weapons they had, which only made the conquest more entertaining. Minutes passed, then hours. The alien fleet maintained their position at the edge of the solar system, their weapons trained on the small blue world. Finally, a transmission came back from Earth. "Unknown vessels," a calm voice said in accented English. "This is Director Chen of Earth Defense Command. Thank you for your warning. We appreciate the advance notice. However, I feel I should inform you that you might want to reconsider your current course of action." The bridge erupted in surprised chittering and clicking sounds as the alien crew reacted to this unexpected response. Kethvar raised one clawed hand for silence. Did she just thank us? The communications officer asked in confusion. It appears so, Kethvar replied, equally puzzled. In all his years of conquest, no species had ever thanked him for threatening to destroy them. Admiral, the tactical officer reported. We are still detecting no military response from the planet. Their ships remain in civilian orbits. No weapons are being powered up. No shields are being raised. Kethvar stared at the viewing screen, trying to understand what he was seeing. Either these humans were incredibly brave, incredibly stupid, or they knew something he did not. Given their primitive technology, he was betting on stupid. The response from Earth continued. We understand that you represent a powerful empire, and we respect your achievements in space travel and military technology. However, Earth is not interested in becoming part of your empire at this time. We would prefer that you leave our solar system and seek expansion opportunities elsewhere. This is our polite request. The alien bridge fell completely silent. Even the humming of the ship's engine seemed to quiet. Then slowly the silence was broken by a sound that started small and grew louder. Kethvar was laughing. The laughter spread across the bridge as hundreds of alien crew members joined in. The idea that this primitive species was making a polite request for the Imperial fleet to leave was the most amusing thing any of them had heard in years. A polite request? Kethvar gasped between fits of laughter. They are asking us politely to leave. He wiped tears from his 4 eyes and looked around at his crew. These humans are either the bravest species we have ever encountered, or they have no idea what they are facing. Should we respond, Admiral? The communications officer asked. No, Kethvar replied, his amusement fading as he returned his attention to military matters. Let them wonder what we are thinking. Fear is often more effective than threats. He turned to his tactical officer. Begin moving the fleet into attack position. Standard conquest formation. If they want to play games, we will show them what happens to species that waste Imperial time. The 500 ships began to move through space like a school of metal fish, their massive forms blocking out more and more stars as they arranged themselves for the assault on Earth. Each ship was a masterpiece of Imperial engineering, capable of destroying entire cities with a single shot. As the fleet took its positions, Kethvar allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Soon, this blue world would join the dozens of others that bore the scars of Imperial conquest. The humans would learn, as every species learned, that resistance to the Empire was futile. Looking out at the peaceful planet one last time, Kethvar wondered if the humans would surrender when they saw the fleet approaching, or if they would force him to demonstrate Imperial power. Either way, by tomorrow, Earth would belong to the Empire. What he did not know was that far below on that blue world, Director Chen was looking up at the stars through her own viewing screen, and she was smiling. Admiral Kethvar stood in his private quarters reviewing the intelligence files about humanity one more time. The datapad in his clawed hands contained everything the Empire knew about this strange species, and none of it suggested they should be capable of the confidence they had just displayed. According to the reports, humans had only achieved spaceflight in the last century. Their fastest ships used chemical rockets that took months to travel between planets in their own system. They had never developed faster than light travel, which meant they were trapped in this single star system like insects in a bottle. The Empire's scouts had been watching Earth for 50 years, carefully documenting human development. The reports painted a picture of a divided species that spent most of its energy fighting itself. Hundreds of nations competed for resources on their single world, and they had fought 2 devastating global wars within living memory. Their weapons were primitive by Imperial standards. Nuclear bombs that could destroy cities, but nothing that could threaten a starship. Chemical explosives and metal projectiles that moved slower than Imperial shields could deflect them. The scouts had even observed humans using sharpened metal sticks in some of their conflicts. Yet something about their response troubled him. In 300 years of conquest, Kethvar had learned to read the signs when a species was about to surrender. Fear in their communications, desperate attempts to negotiate, panic as they realized what they faced. The humans had shown none of these signs. Instead, they had thanked him, as if his ultimatum had been a favor. A soft chime indicated someone was requesting entry to his quarters. "Enter," he called out. His second-in-command, Commander Vextal, stepped through the door. The younger officer's scales were still bright green, showing his nervousness. "Admiral, the fleet has completed positioning. We are ready to begin the approach to the target world." Good, Kethvar replied, setting down the datapad. What is your assessment of the human response? Vextol's 4 eyes shifted uncertainly. Sir, I have reviewed all our previous conquest records. I cannot find another instance where a species responded with such casualness to our ultimatum. Nor can I, Kethvar admitted, but their technology clearly shows they pose no threat. Perhaps they are simply in denial about their situation. Perhaps, Vextol agreed, though he did not sound convinced. Admiral, there is one thing that puzzles me about the intelligence reports. What is that? The human space program, sir. According to our scouts, they achieved their first orbital flight only 60 years ago. But the rate of their advancement seems unusual. Kethvar picked up the datapad again and scrolled through the timeline. Vextol was right. The humans had gone from their first orbital flight to landing on their moon in less than a decade. They had built space stations, sent probes to other planets, and established a permanent presence in orbit around their world in just a few generations. Rapid advancement is not uncommon in younger species, Kethvar said. They often make quick progress once they discover the basic principles of space travel. Yes, sir. But the scouts also reported something else. In the last 20 years, human space activity has decreased significantly. They canceled several planned missions to other planets. Their space stations have been operating with skeleton crews. It is as if they lost interest in space exploration just when they were becoming good at it. Kethvar considered this. It was unusual but not unheard of. Sometimes species went through periods of reduced expansion as they focused on other priorities. There is more, sir, Vextol continued. The energy signatures from their planet have changed in recent decades. The scouts detected a significant increase in power generation, but much of it seems to be going to facilities that do not match any known human technology patterns. Explain. Large installations built in remote areas. They generate enormous amounts of energy, but the scouts could not determine what they are used for. The facilities are heavily shielded and emit unusual electromagnetic signatures. Kethvar felt a small chill run down his spine. In his experience, when a species built mysterious facilities and then acted confident in the face of Imperial might, it usually meant they had developed something unexpected. What does intelligence suggest these facilities might be? Unknown, sir. The working theory is that they are some kind of industrial complex, perhaps weapons manufacturing, though no increase in conventional military activity has been observed. The Admiral walked to the viewing port of his quarters and looked out at the distant blue world. It looked so peaceful, so harmless, but something was nagging at him, a feeling he had learned to trust over 3 centuries of military service. Commander, I want you to personally review all sensor data we have collected since arriving in this system. Look for anything unusual, anything that does not match our expectations. Yes, sir. Should I delay the fleet advance? Kethvar was tempted. His instincts were telling him something was wrong, but his rational mind insisted that these humans posed no threat. Their technology was primitive. Their response to his ultimatum, while unusual, could simply be explained by ignorance or bravado. No, he decided. We proceed as planned, but maintain full sensor sweeps. I want to know immediately if anything changes on that planet. As Vextol left to carry out his orders, Kethvar remained at the viewing port. The human response continued to bother him. In particular, the woman who had spoken to them. Director Chen, she had called herself. Her voice had been calm, almost amused, as if she knew something he did not. He tried to remember if any of the intelligence reports had mentioned someone called Director Chen or an organization called Earth Defense Command. The scouts had identified numerous human military organizations, but he could not recall seeing that name specifically mentioned. His personal communicator buzzed with an incoming message. It was from the intelligence division aboard his flagship. Admiral, the message read, we have completed analysis of the human response transmission. The voice patterns and linguistic markers suggest the speaker was completely calm. No signs of stress, fear, or deception were detected, most unusual for a species facing extinction. Even more troubling was a second message that arrived moments later. Admiral, we have been unable to locate any references to Earth Defense Command in our intelligence files. This organization does not appear in any of our previous reports about human military structures. Kethvar felt that chill again. An unknown military organization. Mysterious energy facilities. A confident response to overwhelming force. These were all warning signs that something was not as it appeared. But what could humans possibly have developed that could threaten the Imperial fleet? Their most advanced weapons were nuclear bombs, and those could barely scratch the paint on an Imperial dreadnought. Their ships could not even leave their own star system. He opened a communication channel to the bridge. "This is the Admiral. I want continuous deep scans of the planet below. Monitor all energy signatures, communication traffic, and any signs of military activity. Report anything unusual immediately." "Yes, sir," came the reply. "Admiral, should we delay the attack?" HFY stared at the blue world below. His military training told him to be cautious when facing unknown factors. But his experience told him that primitive species often acted irrationally when faced with superior force. The humans were probably simply in denial about their fate. "Negative," he said finally. "We proceed as planned. Begin the approach to Earth. But stay alert." As the massive fleet began moving toward the inner solar system, HFY could not shake the feeling that he was missing something important. The humans were acting like they had a secret. The question was whether that secret was a weapon, or simply the delusion of a species that did not yet understand what they were facing. Far below on Earth, in a bunker buried deep beneath the Swiss Alps, Director Chen was indeed smiling. She looked at the countdown timer on her screen and picked up her communication device. "All stations, this is Director Chen," she said calmly. "The visitors have begun their approach. Prepare for Protocol 7. And remember, we only get one chance to make a good first impression." Deep beneath the Swiss Alps, Director Chen walked through corridors that did not officially exist. The facility around her was humanity's greatest secret, hidden from public view for over 30 years. The walls hummed with energy that would have puzzled the alien fleet above, if they could have detected it through the layers of shielding. She entered the central command center, where dozens of technicians worked at stations monitoring screens filled with data that would have seemed impossible to most humans. These were not the primitive computer displays the aliens expected from Earth. These were quantum interfaces, showing energy patterns that existed outside normal space and time. "Status report," Chen requested as she took her position at the central console. "All stations are online and fully charged," reported Dr. Sarah Martinez, the facility's chief scientist. "Beijing, Moscow, New York, Tokyo, and all secondary installations are confirming ready status. We have full quantum entanglement locks on all targets." Chen nodded, studying the tactical display that showed the alien fleet's position. The ships were moving slowly through the solar system, probably being careful to scan for threats. They would find none that their technology could recognize. "Dr. Martinez," Chen said quietly, "remind me again why we never told the world about this." The scientist looked up from her console, her face serious. "Because, Director, the world was not ready. When our teams first cracked the quantum field equations 35 years ago, we realized we had discovered something that could either save humanity or destroy it. The decision was made to keep it secret until we needed it." Chen remembered those early days when she had been just a young physicist working on what everyone thought was a radio telescope project. The discovery had been accidental, really. They had been trying to create a more sensitive deep space communication array when they stumbled onto something that changed everything. Quantum entanglement, they had learned, was not just a curiosity of particle physics. When properly manipulated, it could be used to affect matter across any distance instantly. The implications had been staggering, not just for communication or transportation, but for weapons that could reach across space faster than light itself. "Ma'am," called out Lieutenant James Park from the tracking station, "the alien fleet has passed Mars orbit. Current speed suggests they will reach Earth in approximately 6 hours." "Perfect," Chen replied. "That gives us plenty of time to make final preparations." She opened a secure communication channel that connected her to similar facilities around the world. The screens around the command center came alive with faces she had worked with for decades. These were the guardians of humanity's secret, the men and women who had spent their lives preparing for this day. "Beijing Station. Report," she said. "All systems operational," came the reply from General Liu. "Quantum resonance cannons are fully charged and locked onto targets 1 through 100. "Moscow Station. Report. Ready for engagement," reported Colonel Petrov. "Targeting systems confirmed locks on targets 101 through 200. "New York Station. Report. "Green across the board," said Admiral Thompson. "We have confirmed locks on targets 201 through 300. The reports continued from facilities on every continent. What the aliens thought were primitive radio telescopes and research stations were actually the most advanced weapons ever created by human hands. Each installation housed a quantum resonance cannon capable of dissolving matter at the subatomic level across interstellar distances. The technology was based on principles that most alien civilizations considered theoretical impossibilities. By creating entangled quantum fields between the weapon and its target, they could instantly destabilize the fundamental forces that held atoms together. The effect was complete and instantaneous molecular dissolution. Dr. Martinez, Chen said, explain to me one more time why this will work against their shields. The scientist pulled up a holographic display showing the alien ship designs their long-range sensors had analyzed. Director, their defensive systems are based on deflecting or absorbing energy attacks. They use electromagnetic barriers, plasma shields, and kinetic dampeners, all very advanced by conventional standards. She highlighted different parts of the alien vessels. But quantum field manipulation attacks the target at a level below what their shields can protect against. We are not hitting their ships with energy. We are changing the quantum state of the matter that makes up their ships. Their shields cannot deflect an attack that affects the fundamental structure of reality itself. Chen studied the data, still amazed by what human science had achieved in just a few decades. The aliens had spent thousands of years developing space travel and energy weapons. Humanity had gone from discovering quantum mechanics to weaponizing the structure of reality in less than a century. Ma'am, Lieutenant Park called out, we are receiving a new transmission from the alien fleet. Put it through. Admiral Kethavar's voice filled the command center, translated by the same systems that had created their earlier response. People of Earth, this is your final warning. Our fleet will reach your world in 6 of your hours. You have until then to signal your surrender. If you do not, we will demonstrate the power of the Zephyrian Empire. This is your last chance to avoid destruction. Chen smiled and opened the response channel. She had been looking forward to this moment for 35 years. Admiral Kethavar, she said, her voice carrying to every ship in the alien fleet. This is Director Chen. Thank you for the update on your schedule. We appreciate your patience. However, I feel I should clarify something for you. When I said we would prefer you to leave our solar system, that was not a request. That was an instruction. She paused, looking around at the faces of her team. These people had dedicated their lives to this moment, preparing for the day when humanity would no longer be alone in the universe. Admiral, your intelligence about Earth appears to be somewhat outdated. While it is true that we are a young species, we have been quite busy during the time your scouts have been watching us. We have developed certain capabilities that we believe will surprise you. On the tactical display, Chen could see the alien fleet continuing its approach. Their ships were spreading out in what was probably a standard attack formation. They had no idea what was waiting for them. I am going to make you a counteroffer, Admiral, Chen continued. Turn your fleet around and leave our solar system immediately. Return to your empire and inform them that Earth is not available for conquest. Do this and we will allow you to leave unharmed. She could imagine the alien commander's reaction to her words. No doubt he was laughing again, or whatever his species did when they found something amusing. Furthermore, Admiral, please inform your empire that any future attempts to approach Earth with hostile intent will be met with immediate and overwhelming force. Consider this your only warning. Chen closed the communication channel and turned to her team. All stations begin final targeting sequences. We will give them exactly 6 hours to consider our offer. If they do not turn around by then, we will demonstrate why Earth does not need to fear alien invasions. Dr. Martinez looked up from her console. Director, are you certain we should not try to capture some of their ships for study? The technology could be valuable. Chen considered this. The alien ships undoubtedly contained technology that could advance human space travel by centuries, but the risk was too great. If even one ship survived to escape and report back to their empire, Earth would face an invasion fleet next time, not just a conquest force. Negative, she decided. We cannot allow any of them to survive and report our capabilities. This demonstration must be so overwhelming that their empire decides Earth is too dangerous to approach. She looked at the countdown timer on her screen. 6 hours until humanity announced itself to the galaxy, in a way that would echo across the stars for generations to come. Ladies and gentlemen, she said to her team, we are about to make history. After today, humanity will no longer be a secret to the galaxy. Let us make sure we make the right kind of impression. Admiral Kethavar stared at the communication console in disbelief. The human woman had just threatened him. A species that could barely leave their own planet had just warned the Zephyrian Imperial fleet to leave or face overwhelming force. Did she just... Commander Vextal began, his voice trailing off in amazement. She did, Kethavar confirmed. The humans just threatened us. The bridge erupted in the alien equivalent of laughter, a series of clicks and hisses that echoed through the vast chamber. Even the normally disciplined crew could not contain their amusement. The idea that these primitive beings could threaten the most powerful fleet in the galaxy was beyond absurd. Admiral, the communications officer called out, still chuckling. Should we respond to their instruction? Kethavar waved a clawed hand dismissively. Ignore it. Clearly they are desperate and trying to bluff us with empty threats. Continue the approach as planned. But as the hours passed and the fleet drew closer to Earth, something continued to bother him. The humans were not acting like any species he had encountered before. Most civilizations, when faced with the Imperial fleet, either surrendered immediately or made desperate attempts to negotiate. The humans seemed almost calm. Sir, the sensor officer reported, we are detecting increased energy activity on the planet's surface. Multiple installations are showing higher power outputs. Military preparations? Unknown, sir. The energy signatures do not match any known weapon systems. The patterns are unusual. Kethavar studied the sensor readouts. The human facilities were indeed generating enormous amounts of energy, but the sensors could not determine what they were doing with it. The energy seemed to be building up in massive capacitors, as if they were preparing to power something that required incredible amounts of electricity. Could they be powering some kind of planetary defense system? He wondered aloud. Unlikely, sir, the tactical officer replied. Even if they had developed energy weapons, they would need hundreds of years to create anything that could threaten our shields. Their most advanced weapons are primitive nuclear devices. The fleet continued its approach, the massive ships cutting through space like predators approaching helpless prey. Earth grew larger in the viewing screens, its blue oceans and white clouds making it look deceptively peaceful. As they passed the orbit of Earth's moon, Kethavar received a priority message from the Imperial Intelligence Division. Admiral, the message read, we have completed additional analysis of the human response patterns. Something is unusual about their behavior. In our database of conquered worlds, no species has ever shown this level of confidence when facing the Imperial fleet without having superior technology. The message continued. Furthermore, we have detected quantum field fluctuations emanating from multiple points on the planet's surface. These energy signatures are unknown to Imperial science. Recommend extreme caution. Quantum field fluctuations? Kethavar had never heard of such a thing. The Empire's scientists had studied quantum mechanics for millennia, but they had never detected anything like what the sensors were reporting from Earth. Commander Vextal, he called out, bring us to full alert status. Raise shields and power all weapons, sir. Vextal looked confused. Against these humans? Do it, Kethavar ordered. His instincts were screaming at him now, telling him that something was very wrong with this situation. The Imperial fleet shifted into combat formation, their massive shields shimmering to life around each vessel, weapons that could destroy continents powered up, their energy signatures lighting up the darkness of space. On Earth, Director Chen watched the alien fleet's formation change through her quantum sensors. They are beginning to suspect something, she observed. Should we accelerate our timeline? Dr. Martinez asked. No, Chen replied firmly. We gave them 6 hours. We will honor that. But begin final targeting locks. I want every ship marked and ready. The massive quantum resonance cannons hidden beneath seemingly innocent installations around the world began their final preparations. Quantum fields that existed outside normal spacetime were carefully aligned with each target in the alien fleet. The technology was so advanced that even the operators barely understood how it worked. They were manipulating forces that controlled the fundamental structure of matter itself, reaching across space to touch the quantum signatures of the alien vessels. Admiral, Lieutenant Park reported, the alien fleet is now entering our optimal firing range. All stations report target locks confirmed and stable. Chen looked at her chronometer. They still had 30 minutes left in the ultimatum she had given the aliens. She wondered if Admiral Kethvar would use that time to reconsider his position, or if he was too proud to retreat from what he saw as primitive humans. On the flagship Dominion's Fist, alarms began to sound. The sensor officer was staring at his displays in confusion and growing alarm. "Admiral," he called out urgently, "I am detecting massive energy spikes across the planet's surface. The quantum field readings are off the scale." Kethvar felt ice form in his veins. "Explain." "Sir, the energy pattern suggests some kind of targeting system. The quantum fields are reaching out from the planet toward our ships. I have never seen anything like this." "Evasive maneuvers," Kethvar shouted. "All ships emergency dispersal pattern." But even as he gave the order, he realized it might be too late. If the humans had developed some kind of quantum weapon system, distance and speed might not matter. Quantum effects operated outside normal physics. "Sir," the communications officer reported, his voice shaking, "we are receiving another transmission from the planet." "Put it through." Director Chen's calm voice filled the bridge once again. "Admiral Kethvar, this is your final warning. You now have 60 seconds to begin turning your fleet around. If you do not, we will demonstrate why Earth is not interested in joining your empire." The countdown timer on Chen's screen showed 30 seconds remaining. Around her, the command center was silent except for the humming of the quantum resonance cannons reaching full power. "Director," Dr. Martinez said quietly, "all stations report ready. Quantum locks are stable. We can fire at any time." Chen looked at the displays showing the alien fleet. 500 massive ships, each one capable of destroying Earth cities. In 30 seconds, those ships would learn that humanity had developed something their empire had never encountered. "Admiral Kethvar," she said into her microphone, "I hope your escape pods are working properly. You are going to need them." On the alien flagship, Kethvar was frantically trying to understand what his sensors were telling him. The quantum field readings were unlike anything in Imperial science. The energy patterns reaching out from Earth seemed to be touching his ships at a level deeper than matter itself. "All ships, emergency retreat," he commanded. Maximum speed away from the planet. But it was too late. Director Chen looked at her countdown timer as it reached 0. She took a deep breath and spoke the words that would change human history forever. "All stations," she said calmly. "Fire." The quantum resonance cannons fired in perfect synchronization across Earth's surface. There was no visible beam, no flash of light, no dramatic energy discharge that observers could see. The weapons operated on principles that existed outside normal space and time, sending quantum field disruptions across the void at speeds that made light seem slow. Admiral Kethvar was looking at his sensor displays when the impossible happened. The quantum signatures of his ships began to destabilize. The very atoms that made up the massive hulls started to lose their coherence as the fundamental forces holding them together were systematically dismantled. "Report," he shouted, but his crew was staring at their instruments in terror and confusion. "Sir," the sensor officer called out, his voice breaking, the matter signatures are dissolving. The quantum fields that hold our hulls together are being disrupted." On the viewing screen, Kethvar watched in horror as the ship next to his flagship began to fade away like smoke in the wind. There was no explosion, no dramatic destruction. The massive dreadnought simply stopped existing. Its matter scattered into component atoms across space. "Shields," he commanded desperately. "Shields have no effect, sir. Whatever this weapon is, it operates below the level of matter itself." Ship after ship in the Imperial fleet began to dissolve. The quantum resonance beams touched each vessel and systematically broke down the quantum fields that allowed atoms to stick together. In less than 3 seconds, 500 of the most powerful warships in the galaxy simply ceased to exist. The Dominion's Fist shuddered as the quantum beam reached it. Kethvar felt the deck plating beneath his feet begin to lose cohesion. The walls around him started to become transparent as their molecular structure failed. "Emergency evacuation," he screamed. "All hands to escape pods." The few crew members who reached the escape pods in time found themselves floating in space, watching the remainder of the Imperial fleet fade away like a bad dream. In the space where 500 mighty warships had been, there was now only empty void and scattered atomic particles. The escape pods' communication systems crackled to life with panicked transmissions from the few other survivors scattered across the battlefield. "Admiral, are you there? What happened to the fleet? How is this possible?" Helavar activated his pod's transmitter with shaking hands. All survivors maintain radio silence. Set course for the nearest Imperial outpost. We must report what has happened here. But even as he gave the order, he wondered if anyone would believe their story. The humans had just destroyed the most powerful fleet in the galaxy, using weapons that should not have been possible for their level of development. On Earth, Director Chen watched the tactical display as the alien ships disappeared one by one. The quantum resonance cannons had performed exactly as designed, completely eliminating the threat to humanity in a matter of seconds. All stations, cease fire, she ordered. Confirm all targets eliminated. Beijing. Station confirms complete target elimination. Moscow. Station reports total success. New. York Station confirms no remaining enemy vessels. The reports came in from around the world. The Imperial fleet had been utterly destroyed, with only a handful of escape pods remaining as witnesses to what had just occurred. Dr. Martinez, Chen said quietly, prepare a wideband transmission to the escape pods. Let us give their survivors a message to take home. Chen activated the communication system and addressed the handful of aliens floating in their tiny pods among the debris of their once mighty fleet. Survivors of the Imperial fleet, this is Director Chen of Earth Defense Command. Your attack on our world has been repelled. We have allowed your escape pods to survive so that you may return to your empire with an important message. She paused, choosing her words carefully. This message would determine humanity's relationship with the galaxy for generations to come. Please inform your empire that Earth is not interested in conquest, incorporation, or any other form of hostile contact. We are a peaceful species, but we are capable of defending ourselves against any threat. What you have witnessed today is just a small demonstration of our defensive capabilities. Dr. Martinez looked at her with surprise. A small demonstration? The quantum resonance cannons represented the most advanced weapons technology humanity had ever developed. Chen continued her transmission. We do not seek conflict with your empire or any other galactic civilization. However, any future attempts to threaten Earth or humanity will be met with immediate and complete destruction. We will not give warnings a second time. She looked around the command center at the faces of her team. These people had spent decades preparing for this moment, and they had succeeded beyond their wildest dreams. We suggest you mark Earth as a restricted zone in your navigation charts. Consider this your only warning. Chen closed the communication channel and turned to her staff. Begin monitoring all radio frequencies for communications between the escape pods and their empire. I want to know when word of this reaches their leadership. Over the following days, Earth's monitoring stations tracked the alien escape pods as they fled toward the edge of the solar system. The pods were broadcasting continuously, sending detailed reports of the fleet's destruction back to their empire. 3 weeks later, those reports reached the nearest Imperial outpost. The station commander initially dismissed the survivors' accounts as trauma-induced delusions. An entire Imperial fleet destroyed by primitive humans? Impossible. But when long-range sensors confirmed the complete absence of the fleet's quantum signatures, panic began to spread through the Imperial command structure. Emergency meetings were called. Scientists were consulted. The survivors were interrogated repeatedly. The conclusion was unavoidable. Somehow the humans had developed weapons technology that surpassed anything in the Imperial arsenal. The species that could barely leave their own star system had just eliminated 500 of the Empire's most advanced warships in a matter of seconds. Emperor Vorthak himself reviewed the sensor, data, and survivor testimonies. The old ruler had conquered dozens of worlds during his reign, but he had never encountered anything like this. The humans had not just defeated the Imperial fleet, they had made it disappear as if it had never existed. The Imperial Council debated for days about how to respond. Some called for massive retaliation, gathering every ship in the Empire to glass the human world. Others argued for immediate negotiations, hoping to avoid further conflict with a species that had demonstrated such devastating capabilities. In the end, Emperor Vorthak made a decision that shocked the galaxy. Earth was to be designated as a Class X extinction zone, forbidden to all Imperial ships. No vessel was to approach the human solar system under any circumstances. The official records would show that the fleet had been lost to unknown spatial anomalies. As word spread through the galaxy's communication networks, other alien civilizations began updating their own star charts. The small blue world in the outer spiral arm was marked with symbols that translated roughly as "Do Not Disturb" or "Extreme Danger Zone." Back on Earth, Director Chen received reports from deep space monitoring stations that alien traffic throughout the local region had decreased dramatically. Ships that had been heading toward Earth's sector had changed course. The message was clear: humanity's demonstration had been heard across the galaxy. In her final report to the Secret Council that oversaw Earth's defense, Chen wrote, "Mission accomplished. Earth's status as a target for galactic conquest has been permanently revoked. Humanity is now free to develop and explore space on our own terms without fear of alien interference." She paused in her writing and looked up at the ceiling of her underground office. Somewhere above, beyond the layers of rock and steel, the stars waited. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible, and the galaxy had listened. The next time humans traveled to the stars, they would go as equals, not as potential victims. And if anyone was foolish enough to threaten Earth again, they would discover that the quantum resonance cannons had been just the beginning of what human ingenuity could accomplish when properly motivated. Director Chen smiled and returned to her report. It was time to start planning humanity's next steps into the wider galaxy.